Hello, everyone. Welcome to the week 7 end of week discussion. What did you get out of the discussion? First of all, I wanted to talk about articulation. What I got out of the articulation lesson was that we needed to be intentional about the sounds you introduce together. And I think that's really super important because there's especially at the beginning, like Dr. Durham was saying, and when you have sounds that are very similar at the beginning, the kids need to feel successful and like they're understanding things in order to succeed. And at first, we need to be really careful. And with our kids that are struggling and we can tell are having articulation issues, we need to keep revisiting that for them. Second of all, articulation is at the root of many students' reading struggles, so make sure you address this issue when creating interventions. I thought this was very eye-opening. I think there's a lot of articulation issues that maybe we don't think about that people are having, maybe more subtle ones that the kids are having themselves. Maybe we're not articulating clearly enough for them to understand. Maybe there's a hearing issue. But it's important to investigate that as part of the holistic approach to doing an intervention when we see that they're struggling. And at the beginning, I would say it's something you need to do for everyone because you don't know and you don't want them to struggle more than they have to. And the third key is to use sound phones. I really loved this because I thought it was a really great idea to have them hear what they're saying, and especially for my little kindergartners, I thought it was a really good idea for them to hear very clearly the sounds that they were making so that they could tell what it was and really get that in their brain. And I remember teaching kindergarten, it's not like 20 times they need to hear it, it's like 200. So making sure they're hearing it correctly and hearing it right. And sometimes, if they use that sound phone, they can tell they're not making it quite right. And, or maybe we can tell a little better than not making right, but helping them hear more clearly, I thought was very, very, a very important point. Let's move on to the the dyslexia. Sorry, sorry, I get that off my screen. The dyslexia discussion. And this is what I'm interested in because I want to be a dyslexia specialist. But, and I learned some things. This is more new to me. It's prevalent, manifesting itself in 1 in 5 people, and genetic. So I thought that was very interesting to know. And I think it's very true. I have some cousins that have struggled with dyslexia, and several of the siblings have struggled with dyslexia. So it does seem to be very genetic. And I think it is a lot more prevalent than we realize, especially when you understand the real definition of dyslexia. The next one, it's not about what you see, but how the brain processes it. And it looks like that. Sorry, I was going to fix that, but I'll leave it alone. It's not about what you see, but how the brain processes it. I think that's really important too, because sometimes I think maybe with isolating, we think, okay, you can just see it, but that the brain takes it and it twists it up, and sometimes it's not even the way we're looking at it, but the ability to process that and to get those sounds to blend together. And so I thought that was really important to know that so that we can actually, when we're creating those interventions, do it correctly and do it in a way that the kids can be helped appropriately. The next one is it can manifest itself in many ways. I thought that was also very telling. I think that's important that we don't expect one intervention or a couple of interventions to work with every child. We need to make sure those interventions are, of course, we should know, are very diversified. And last point for the dyslexia lesson was that with good instruction, you can retrain your brain. So it's not something, I think that is not necessarily something that goes away, but it's something that we can retrain our brain to deal with. And so it's not detrimental. it's not something that is permanent. We can fix it and we can, help our kids learn to deal with it. I think the next lesson was Be That Teacher, Chapter 5. And the takeaways that I got from this chapter are that we need to allow children to respond in Spanish. I think it's super important. And it might require that we pick up a few words. I know that I took Spanish in high school, and there's several phrases and words that we can say, and sometimes even using those words yourself, throwing words in there, I think helps the kids to feel more comfortable, but definitely helping them know that they're perfectly good to respond in Spanish, so that they can actually show you what they know, feel successful, and so that they can be able to really, we can understand where they're really at. I thought the second point, was really critical, was to plan instruction so it occurs at a time separate from intervention time. Big important to me that I saw in the case study in that book was that we really need to make sure as much as possible, and we have a lot of control. I know it feels like we're stuck here and stuck there, but we have a lot more control than they think we do about when our instruction happens and how it happens. And I mean, obviously, I think we all feel like everything we do is critical, but we know those times that are more critical. We know that those times when we have a few minutes downtime, try to make those kind of things, bathroom breaks, those kind of things during that intervention time, so that those kids have that chance to receive all the instruction that they can. Number 3, RTI is meant to help kids back on track early and to minimize negative self-image. I think that's really important to understand that the RTI process is our friend. It's very important to understand it so that we can help kids. We can get them when they are first starting out having a difficult time, so that we can get them back on track as fast as possible. Because the farther and farther they get behind, the more and more difficult it is to catch them up, especially because that self-image, and it can be, the longer that self-image lasts, it can be permanent, and we don't want them feeling more negative about the reading process than they have to. So my questions are, what interventions have you seen help your readers with articulation struggles? Number 2, have you had readers you suspected to be dyslexic? What caused your suspicions, and what was the outcome of that investigation? I'm very curious to see what you thought was suspicious and really wasn't, and what you maybe even weren't sure about, and you decided to go with it anyways, and you investigated it, and it really was, so that to help us more clearly identify our kiddos that are dyslexic. And number 3, what changes have you made so your interventions were not coinciding with core instruction? I'm curious to see what sacrifices you've made. Give us some ideas. Maybe some of us that are feeling like we don't have a chance to be able to tweak our program just a little bit so that our interventions are not coinciding with core instruction. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.